Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic out there. If you could subscribe, that'd be great, and I appreciate you stopping by. Hit that like button. You guys know the drill. Your Miami Heat will finally be back in action coming on Friday night. Little programming note, I'll be working on the pregame broadcast on the radio side of things, so if you guys want to tune in on the Odyssey app, you guys can hear me getting you ready for Heat and Raptors as the Miami Heat are getting set to restart things. Got a full slate going on tonight in the NBA alongside a massive, massive hockey game. So that'll be fun to check out. But the Miami Heat start off this second half. They got 3 games on the road as they've basically been on the road the entire month of February outside of a short stint with the Boston Celtics coming into town. And 3 games that Miami has got to start climbing their way out of their worst hole of the season. Miami has found itself now 3 games under 500 and in the midst of a losing streak, 4 straight, 5 out of 6 for your Miami Heat as they roll on into the Great North to take on the Toronto Raptors, a team that is going to be a little bit banged up going into this one. The injury report just coming out on their side of things. Brandon Ingram, who they just traded for, we will not get a look at him. Jakob Poeltl is going to miss the game as well. He, of course, has been a little bit of a thorn in the Miami Heat side so far this season. It has been a series. It's the last matchup these guys are taking on. The Heat are up 2-1 in the season series against the Toronto Raptors. And then after that, they get into this thing. They take on the Milwaukee Bucks, who, of course, are above them in the standings. And then they have the Atlanta Hawks, who are also slightly above them in the standings. Miami right now looking up at the Hawks, Magic, Pistons in the standings. Both the Magic and Hawks above them in the play-in standings. Miami currently sits 9th in the Eastern Conference, not nearly close to their standard, and has some things that they obviously got to figure out. We'll hear from Eric Spoelstra here in just a second, but going into this thing now with a all-star break to refresh themselves, reset their batteries. That was kind of the message. Pretty cliche-filled post-practice from the players there today. We know Miami is going to probably stick with its 4 starters of Kel'el Ware, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins. I guess there's going to be a question, does the Miami Heat in a revenge game continue to start Davion Mitchell? Or will they use him to change things up, change of pace for this Heat team coming off the bench? We did see a little bit more of Alec Burks in this closing run, although it didn't really bear fruit for the Miami Heat's record. Those plus-minus numbers have been pretty good. So could we see a Duncan Robinson reinserted into the starting lineup for your Miami Heat? And then I think the other question you got to ask in this rotation, if that does move Davion Mitchell to the bench, does that spell a near end for Terry Rozier in his rotational minutes? Now, to be fair to Terry, he's been everybody's favorite scapegoat, myself included, putting a brunt of the weight of the Heat struggles on him, and it really probably isn't fair because the Miami Heat, even in their aftermath with having no Terry Rozier the last 2 games of this run for the Heat, in the midst of their losing streak, in 2 of those games, they didn't have Scary Terry. He was not out there. So, he cannot be scapegoated for anybody else. But certainly it has not been a great year for Terry Rozier. There was like a little pocket there where it looked like he was starting to find some things. Maybe this break does him some good and Spo just kind of rolls things out. And the other question has to also, of course, be with Jaime Jaquez Jr. His sophomore year continues to be very erratic. Do you start seeing a time where Pelle Larsson gets a little bit more run there? But as far as Miami's concerned, I mean, from my standpoint, you look at those 4 guys who are definitely going to start. Duncan, Davion feel like they got to be in the rotation there somewhere, somehow. Your 6th man is essentially Nikola Jovic, and Davion Mitchell is going to play. So, you put those guys out there alone, you're talking a rotation that's going, 8 already, and then you're throwing into the mix, will Terry get minutes? Will we see anything from will we see anything from Jaime Jaquez, or does this, is there a possibility that Pelle Larsson gets a little bit more run? Didn't even mention Haywood Highsmith, who of course, has really done nothing but be solid all season for the Miami Heat. So yeah, you think right now if they go starting lineup of Tyler Duncan or Tyler Davion, Wiggins, Bam, Kalel, Davion, Duncan in some kind of a swap wherever that's going to go. Nico certainly coming off the bench, but like Haywood Highsmith, is Jaime Jaquez playing better than Haywood Highsmith? I would say probably not this season, but obviously Jaime is your first round pick. You want to see, what can he put forth this year. Then, you've seen some spells of Pella, but Pella has begun to quick foul trouble, so it's been tough to get over that hump with him. And then Alec Burks just continues to be a pro's pro in all this. On the Miami Heat side of things, the only thing on their injury report is Kevin Love, as he is out for personal reasons, and Tyler Hero is dealing with a right shoulder injury, but is, I guess, probable to play in this one. Eric Spoelstra talking about what the Miami Heat have to accomplish and the run it back of this second half of the season. And he says that wins aren't just going to happen magically for Miami.
It's not like we're going to get everything together. That's not realistic. But we're going to address the things that need to be addressed. That's for sure. And we have a group that is going to roll up their sleeves and work on the things that hopefully lead to winning. There's nothing guaranteed in this league. You can check all these boxes and it still is decided, between those four lines. The other team has something to say about it. I love the competitive spirit, about this team. I love the work ethic of the team, the character of the team. There's a connection, even though there's been a lot of things happen to this team. Now it's about learning how to win and learning how to do it consistently. And, part of that process is understanding what are the key indicators that lead to winning. And a lot of those for us are when there's a little bit of adversity or in the moments of truth. And we'll get better with that.
Yeah, I mean, they've been truly awful it's almost funny. It's a weird thing for Miami because, yes, they've had trouble dealing with adversity because things just seem to snowball, but it's almost like you look at them and it's almost like sometimes they don't know how to deal with success in a game. Like they can't sustain, they can't maintain, that he feels that they're best in adverse situations. But I got to think that every Heat fan who has watched this season and watched the way things have unraveled, the unfortunate thing has been how many games where you're watching them and it's just like the scoring just dries up or they can't get a stop. And there's just nothing that seems to be able to mentally click for them to get it. And I think that's where the pressure goes on Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero in particular to lead this group. They got to find a way to get Andrew Wiggins more comfortable. And I know Wiggins is not the type of guy who's going to bring that, force every single night. That's just not exactly who he is, but he is a good player. He's a well-rounded player, and you'd like to see him start fitting in. You think back to Terry last year, and Terry's more of a punch scoring microwave threat just before the neck injury, and it still took him a little bit to find his footing. This, I got to think, is a little bit different because there's no Jimmy Butler to go around, and there's no weirdness of, Tyler Hero's coming back. Andrew Wiggins is going to have his playpen of places where he's going to be able to fit in and make his own mark, and he's going to have to do that. You're hopeful that this is a little bit more, if anybody could have used the mental reset more than anybody, I gotta imagine Wiggins is numero uno on that list. Just because that's a whirlwind of what you go through personally with, the birth of your child, and then you're flying across the country, and you probably thought, the Warriors, we're not going to be in this deal. I'm finally safe. And then, nope, guess what? You're on the Miami Heat now, dude. So that to me is critical. Like, get to this point. The other guys who I think needed this break were probably the young bigs in Kalel and Nico. So I'm looking for freshness and better play out of them. But Wiggins feeling more at home, getting his sea legs under him, feeling like he can actually make an impact on this team and not feel like he's just out there floating in space. I know that could be the MO on him, is that there'll be nights where you don't even notice him. But look, this is certainly a team that needs it. They need they need what he brings to the table from an athletic standpoint, from an ability to defend and deter. And so, that's definitely one of the key things looking into this and what they have for the rest of this season. In the early term of this, in the short term of this for the Miami Heat, you're looking at a run where this weekend at Toronto, at Milwaukee, at Atlanta, then you get to come home for a handful of games, which will be nice. But it does start here. Miami's road record has not been that great last year. Mind you, this was a team that was pretty damn good on the road last year. Even with all their struggles and how frustrating their season was last year, they were one of the better road teams, especially in the East. I think they had the second most road wins, only to the Celtics. And now they're a team that's 12-17 on the road. Got to see if they could get that a little bit better and then really clean house at home, because they're going to have a lot of home games. They're going to have a lot more games at the Kaseya Center that they could hopefully take advantage of. They can hopefully take advantage of going into this thing. But it gets started up against this Raptors team who they should be able to handle. But, even for a team that's third worst in the Eastern Conference, there really are no layups for the Miami Heat. When you lose the way that you did to Brooklyn and to Chicago and to the Jazz, there's really no game you could just chalk up for the Miami Heat and be like, yep, that is that one is right there for them. They should definitely say, you could look at them and say on a normal night, that's a win, that's a loss. Those guys, like, Toronto should be a win. You can't do that with them. They're too squirrely. They're too weird. I think the only team you could probably look over these next 7 games and be like, oh, the game they'll definitely get is the Wizards at home. And then the rest of them, like, look, they're all teams that are above them right now in the standings. So Miami's got to make a lot of headway if they're going to prove anything as to what this year is going to be. Don't expect them to pack it up. I do expect that they'll play a little bit better and hopefully fix some of their woes that have been there, particularly with the consistency throughout these games. Otherwise, I'm going to be visiting my local liquor store quite frequently.